Things are happening on this week's episode of Implicit Bias, and they're just going on in the world. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. This, the final segment of this week's episode, and man, I gotta tell you, things are moving. And I don't mean like moving like it's been a rough couple of weeks and you needed some of those stool softeners moving. I mean like moving, like things are actually happening in the world. Let me introduce you to the crew real quick before we do that. At the bar, we've got Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. You can get the Jose Cuervo Manuel Noriega Chupacabra cigar at his shop, which is our cigar of the month. It's a Chupacabra, the other Hispanic name.
Esteban Carrera.
Esteban Carrera. Okay. So Stephen Portia. All right.
Yeah.
And then at the bar with him, we've got Triple H. He is Hold Harmless Harmon of Dupree Carrier Gotcha. And of course, the Rustic Renegade, as always, here in the TSPL. And a treat for you. Say hi, Walker.
Hello.
See, drunk Walker can't even follow instructions.
No. Hi, Walker.
Yeah, drunk Walker can't even follow instructions. He is the hungover one this week.
You would think after his third glass of whiskey, he would be able to talk again.
Yeah, you would think. Hair of the dog.
Except he didn't have one yet. He refuses. He sniffed, but didn't refuse. No hair of the dog for him.
Did you promise Kennedy you wouldn't drink again?
Ever.
No.
No.
All right. So this when I say things are happening, this is what I mean as we come to you from the Mr. Lester's Top Secret Podcast Lair. Those who can see us, pretty matters. We're not pretty. We know it, and we're dealing with it. But things are happening. There are a lot of people who currently, right now, are speculating in a lot of markets. There are people who are speculating in the crypto market, looking at XRP, looking at things of that nature and going, there's some things happening in the banking world, wondering if that's going to be eventually a new currency. There are people speculating that, we might see the end of the U.S. Department of Education, which is a promise that was made by our newly president-elect. Then there's also a bill that would abolish the Fed. There is a bill. It's got to make it to the floor, but it has been introduced, and it would abolish the Fed. Now, if there's a wish list that I have of what can happen in the next couple of years, abolishing the Fed is probably number 1 or number 2 up there. It's way up there.
So what does that mean? That we would go back to some precious metal standard or
correct, or some sort of really secure non-government held digital currency, XRP. I mean, there's all.
Carter? What president was it that
Nixon?
It was Nixon.
Well, it was Nixon. It was Nixon who pulled us
started.
off the international gold standard.
No, it was someone else. That they
It was
sat
Carter.
Down, it was
that,
Carter.
It
and
was
he
Carter
said that
that
he doomed the American people to a life of servitude.
Well,
afterwards.
but that's when we could buy gold again.
No, that was way earlier. I could have sworn that was with the initial inception of the Fed back in like 1913, Jekyll Island.
What was Jekyll Island with J.P. Morgan and Chase?
Yep.
The Rockefellers.
That was Wilson.
Yep,
I think
it was
that was
Wilson.
Wilson that started.
That's who it was.
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson started the Fed thing.
Oh, I sound like an old man.
I'm starting to believe
but it was Roosevelt. Wasn't it Roosevelt that pulled us off the gold standard?
I believe it was. I believe it was. I believe it was Teddy.
No. It was Franklin.
It was Franklin?
Yeah, it was FDR that pulled us off of the gold standard, and then, it was.
All right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna
Jimmy
Google.
Carter that came
We're
out.
gonna Google which president pulled us off of the gold
Triple H
standard at
has
the bar.
20 pounds of lead around his neck. He's like, no.
Yeah.
Precious metals.
But here's the.
I believe it's Nixon. It was during the Nixon administration, and Henry Kissinger had a lot to do with that. And it was essentially instead of tying the U.S. dollar to gold, it moved it over to oil.
Oil, and it was percentages. It was
Definitely
interest rates
speaking
and
above
everything
my
else.
pay grade, but that's what I remember.
Well, look, Tug's over there doing nothing at all.
I see that. He could have helped us out by doing
could
some quick
Google
research
this
right
right
there.
now.
Like Google, but regardless, I know
Walker's
that
not doing a damn thing either.
the Fed was created circa 1913, 1915, 16, 17.
Yes.
We came off the gold standard in the U.S. not long after that, because I believe it was the early 1920s that Americans were turning in their gold.
Yep.
And then it was revalued.
And
I
then
got
all of a
it.
sudden was
I
worth
got
so
it.
much.
Early 1920s, from the late 20s to 32, as well as from 44 to 71, the U.S. was unilaterally terminating the convertibility of U.S. dollar to gold. So It was from 20 to basically 71.
Okay, so all of this to say, the big question is who was actually running the Fed? Who owned the Fed? Everybody thought Americans owned the Fed, when that is not the case.
No, the Federal Reserve is a privately owned entity by a
It's a
group of
bank.
investors.
JP Morgan Chase being one. Well, okay,
We-
hold
the
on.
Ro-
We say.
the government-
Rothschild.
Oh, Renee,
Yeah.
ring the
The
bell,
Rothschilds.
Renee, the Rothschild banking
The government
dynasty.
printed the money, gave the money to them, and then they loaned the money back to us at an interest rate. Look, if you as an American citizen don't know this,
It's jacked up. But here's why I say I think things are happening. The Rothschild family has been rapidly de-Rothschilding on this planet for the last couple of years.
well, that's what happens when you keep your family tree straight.
Yeah. It's a
this
blade
is
of
true.
grass.
This is true. We have seen, but I mean, very recently, on the 333rd day of the year, in a 33-minute fire
Yeah.
with 45 firefighters putting it out, the latest Rothschild just passed away. Now, look, if you go dig those numbers up,
Well, look-
don't trust us as to why they're important. Let's just say that there's the masonry on the house might have had some issues. Just leave it at that.
I looked into the 45 firefighters, and based off of the square footage of the mansion and its close proximity to the neighbors, that was an appropriate amount of response. That's my contribution to.
But my point is this. My point is, we are in a time of change, regardless of whether it's by design or whether it's by happenstance. And there's just so much of it going on so quickly that I almost can't believe it's by happenstance, because as a police officer once told us when he was on the show, coincidence after coincidence after coincidence doesn't necessarily just become a coincidence. Now it's by design. And what we are seeing is lawmakers introducing bills to abolish the Fed, which is what would keep a banking family running for hundreds of years. Right? We are seeing a lot of implications around BRICS. Brazil, Russia, China, India, China, South Africa, who were on and want to go back to a gold standard. We are seeing a lot of buzz around XRP and the ISO 20022 standard that banks are now having to take over, which is allowing XRP to all of a sudden surge in value because it's the only one that is authorized and is trackable, traceable, which would put an end to money laundering and things of that nature.
One of the things I don't understand, and our current president-elect, drill baby drill, why don't we go to the oil standard? Because according to all the word out there, we have more oil than anybody else in the world.
Well, and if we did it right, we would do oil and natural gas.
Yeah.
Because Texas,
well,
Louisiana, Mississippi, the Gulf Coast.
Well, again,
natural gas. is a
that
big
goes
thing.
back to the some of the now Henry Kissinger is known for a lot of things, but the work that
You mean
he
like
done
eugenics? I'm sorry.
the work he did during the Nixon administration did tie the dollar. World trade is still to this day conducted. This is the point of BRICS that you just brought up. They're trying to get the world off of the dollar as the world currency when it comes to natural gas, when it comes to oil. So the weaning of the U.S. dollar ultimate off of the gold standard ended during the Nixon administration, and it basically became an oil standard worldwide.
So that's why it's called the petrodollar.
Right.
What I will offer as to why you don't go to oil or natural gas is, if you're going to a currency of this nature, it's got to be something that's accepted and at least has some sort of a level playing field
So like
for a lot of countries around the world.
a non-consumable?
So a non-consumable, a durable good, something that sticks around forever, which is something we don't want you to believe us on. We want you to go look up and figure out on your own. Something that is non-consumable and always there, like your favorite Saturday radio show / podcast. Implicit bias. We'll see you in 7.